The Zorathians had once been a mighty species, known across the galaxy for their advanced technology, vast empire, and unmatched military prowess. Their homeworld, Zorath Prime, had been a beacon of civilization, its towering cities gleaming with the light of progress. However, all of that had changed in the last few decades. Now, the once proud and powerful Zorathians found themselves at the brink of extinction. The Galactic Overlords, a ruthless alliance of alien species led by a powerful AI, had swept across the galaxy like a plague. They enslaved worlds, destroyed civilizations, and left nothing but ruin in their wake. The Zorathians had fought valiantly to defend their home, but the Overlords' overwhelming technological advantage had crushed their defenses. Orbital bombardments from the Overlords' massive warships had reduced entire cities to ashes, and the once thriving planet was now a shadow of its former self. The Zorathian military, though technologically advanced and equipped with high-energy weapons and powerful combat drones, had struggled to hold back the relentless forces of the Overlords. The skies above Zorath Prime were filled with the smoldering wreckage of their warships, and the ground beneath them was scared by the debris of their fallen cities. It seemed that all hope was lost, and the once great Zorathian Empire was destined to fall. Inside the Zorathian command center, the atmosphere was tense. The last surviving generals and commanders gathered around the large holographic table, their faces drawn with exhaustion and fear. They knew that their final line of defense was about to be broken, and their people would be slaughtered if they didn't find a way to turn the tide. Desperation clung to the air like smoke, and the weight of defeat hung heavily on their shoulders. The holographic display flickered and then zoomed in on a section of space. The Overlord's forces were advancing, a vast armada of warships and robotic soldiers prepared to strike the final blow. The Zorathian fleet, now battered and broken, was all that stood between them and total annihilation. As the commanders prepared to make their final stand, something strange happened. One of the intelligence officers, his eyes wide with disbelief, stared at the blinking screen. A small, unidentified fleet was emerging from deep space, moving toward Zorath Prime at an alarming speed. "What is this? What are these ships?" the officer muttered under his breath. The generals gathered around the screen, their faces clouded with confusion and suspicion. The ships were unlike anything the Zorathians had ever encountered, sleek, angular, and moving faster than anything in their arsenal could keep up with. But it wasn't their speed that caused the fear to creep into the hearts of the Zorathian leaders. It was the fact that the ships were cloaked, their engines barely visible against the backdrop of stars. The enemy had technology that could make them virtually invisible. The officer's fingers flew over the console, trying to get a closer look, but the cloaking devices on the incoming fleet were too advanced. The Overlord's scanners couldn't detect them, and neither could the Zorathians' tracking systems. Only the smallest hints of movement were visible on the edge of the sensors. "This is not Overlord reinforcements. They don't move like this," one of the generals said, his voice shaking with uncertainty. "Who are these ships, and why are they coming here?" The Zorathian fleet commanders, realizing the dire situation they were in, scrambled to ready their defenses, ordering their troops into position. They had nothing left to lose. If these unknown ships were enemies, they would have to fight to the death. If they were allies, they had to be ready to cooperate. But the mystery of these ships hung over them like a dark cloud. Zorathian soldiers rushed to their posts, their movements hurried and frantic. Weapons were checked, energy shields were activated, and defense drones were deployed. The air was thick with the sound of alarms, signaling that the final battle was about to begin. But none of them could shake the fear that had settled in their hearts. Who could be coming to their aid? And would they arrive in time? The shadows of the incoming fleet grew larger, and the Zorathian soldiers' nerves were on edge. As the unknown ships grew closer, the tension was unbearable. The sky above Zorath Prime seemed to darken, as if the very heavens themselves were preparing for the storm that was about to descend upon the planet. Then, in an instant, the mystery of the ships was revealed. A massive fleet of warships emerged from the blackness of space, their engines glowing faintly in the cold vacuum. But the most astounding part of it all was their sudden appearance. One moment they were invisible, and the next, they were right in front of Zorath Prime's orbit. The Zorathian scanners finally detected the incoming fleet, and their commanders stood in stunned silence as the ships materialized before their eyes. The ships were human, Earth's finest. For the first time in centuries, Zorathians felt a glimmer of hope. The mysterious fleet, consisting of sleek, technologically advanced human warships, had arrived. The humans were known for their resourcefulness and fierce determination, but they were also considered primitive compared to the highly advanced overlords. The human ships were equipped with the most advanced technology Earth had to offer. Cloaking devices that made them nearly undetectable by enemy scanners, plasma cannons capable of piercing the toughest armor, and AI-enhanced navigation systems that allowed them to coordinate their fleets with precision. The humans had developed their technology in ways the galaxy had never seen before. But how could humans, a race so young compared to the ancient civilizations of the galaxy, have arrived at such a critical time? Were they truly capable of facing the overlords? The U.S. Defiant, the flagship of the human fleet, broke through the darkness and moved toward Zorath Prime with purpose. A massive warship, its sleek black hull reflecting the distant stars. It seemed almost like a ghost, moving silently through space. The humans had come, but their intentions were unclear. Were they enemies, or had they come to aid the Zorathians in their final hour? As the human fleet appeared above the shattered surface of Zorath Prime, a wave of shock and disbelief rippled through the Zorathian command center. "We're here to help," crackled the voice of Captain James Hawk, the leader of the human fleet, over the communication channels. "We've fought our own battles against the overlords. Now it's time to stand together." The Zorathians could scarcely believe it. Earth, a planet considered insignificant by the galaxy's elites, had sent their finest warriors to aid them. Could this be real? Had the humans really come to save them? But the overlords wouldn't give up so easily. As soon as the human ships arrived, the overlord fleet, sensing the sudden disturbance, began their advance. Massive ships, each several kilometers long, lumbered toward Zorath Prime, with their terrifying weapons fully charged. Eye-controlled drones swarmed from the overlord command ships, ready to crush anything that stood in their way. Captain Hawk's voice was calm as he gave his orders. "Target the overlord ships. We'll take them down before they can reach the surface." The Zorathians, still reeling from the shock of the human arrival, quickly fell into formation alongside the human fleet. Though their forces were far weaker than the overlords, they now had hope. And that hope was embodied in the humans, whose weapons fired with deadly precision. It was the first time in years that Zorathians had felt something they hadn't experienced in a long time: hope. The final battle was about to begin, but with the arrival of the humans, everything had changed. Could they truly win? Would humanity's strength and determination be enough to overcome the galaxy's most fearsome overlords? Only time would tell. The air was thick with tension as the Zorathians stared at their scanners, still processing the arrival of the mysterious fleet. Just moments before, their hope had been all but extinguished. But now, something new was on the horizon. An unknown fleet of ships, sleek and dark against the backdrop of space. The Zorathians had been expecting another strike from the overlords, not this. The unknown ships seemed like a potential ally, but doubts lingered in their hearts. Could the humans really be here to help, or were they another force come to conquer their already broken world? Captain James Hawk stood at the helm of the flagship, the U.S. Defiant, as it moved through space, its cloaking devices now disengaged. The massive warship, built to withstand the harshest of battles, cut through the stars with elegance. Its advanced technology made it one of the most formidable vessels in the galaxy. It had been years since the humans had ventured into intergalactic warfare, but they had learned from their struggles. Earth had been thrust into a war with the overlords years ago, and through blood, sweat, and sacrifice. Humanity had become skilled in the art of survival. Captain Hawk, the voice of his trusted lieutenant, crackled over the comms. "We are within range of the Zorathian fleet. All systems are green." Hawk nodded, his brow furrowed as he looked at the distant planet, Zorath Prime, with its once glorious cities now reduced to rubble. His mind raced, wondering what had become of the Zorathians. They had fought hard, but the Overlord's power had nearly wiped them out. Would they accept humanity's help, or would they see the human fleet as just another conqueror? In the Zorathian command center, Empress Rilia, the last living monarch of Zorath, watched the unfolding events with growing unease. Her people had been brought to the brink of extinction. The remnants of her empire had been scattered, her cities reduced to ashes. She had seen many things during her reign. But this was something new. Could she really trust these humans? Could they actually help in their hour of need? Her council gathered around her, equally unsure. The grand display of the human fleet had taken them all by surprise, and the question on everyone's mind was the same. What did the humans want? Were they allies, or would they seek to take advantage of the Zorathians' weakened state? "They're coming closer," one of the generals muttered, his fingers dancing over the holographic controls. The tension was palpable, and every heartbeat felt like it could be the last. The overlords were still out there, looming, and they were close. The decision had to be made, and it had to be made quickly. A silence fell over the room as Empress Rilia stood, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the incoming fleet. Then, with a steady voice, she spoke. "Prepare our forces. We need to know if these humans are here to save us or to use us for their own gain. Let's find out." On the bridge of the U.S. Defiant, Captain Hawk's voice was calm, but his resolve was unwavering. "This is it," he said. "We've come a long way to get here. If the Zorathians will trust us, then we'll fight alongside them. If they won't, we'll fight for them anyway." His voice was heard across the communication channels, and the Zorathian leaders listened intently. There was something in his words, a sincerity, a conviction, that caused a flicker of hope in Empress Rilia's heart. She glanced at her council, silently asking for their opinion. One by one, the generals gave their assent. After all, what did they have left to lose? With the overlords closing in, this was their last chance. Rilia, still hesitant but moved by Hawk's words, made the decision. "Tell them we will stand with them," Rilia said, her voice firm with the weight of her decision. "Prepare our fleets for battle." The communication was sent. It was time to make the call. The humans had arrived, but the question now was whether they could defeat the overlords together. As the message reached Hawk's ears, a surge of hope filled him. He turned to his crew. "You heard that, everyone. The Zorathians are with us. Let's show them what humanity can do." The U.S. Defiant moved forward, its sleek form cutting through the blackness of space, its engines glowing bright. The human ships that had been hidden behind cloaking devices now revealed themselves in all their glory. Each ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, sleek, dark, and deadly. They moved with precision and speed, a testament to the resourcefulness of the human race. From the surface of Zorath Prime, the Zorathian soldiers watched as the human fleet deployed its advanced combat drones. The drones, with their advanced AI and plasma weaponry, hovered above the Zorathian defenses, ready to engage the enemy. The human fleet didn't waste any time. As soon as they were within range, the battle began. The air crackled with energy as the plasma cannons on the human ships fired, lighting up the black void of space with brilliant flashes of blue and red. The energy blasts hit the incoming overlord ships with devastating force, tearing through their armor and sending debris flying. It was unlike anything the Zorathians had seen before. The humans were relentless, their ships moving with lightning-fast precision, cutting down the overlord forces one by one. On the surface of Zorath Prime, Empress Rilia watched in awe as the human fleet worked in perfect harmony with the Zorathian forces. The battle was unlike anything she had ever seen. The humans fought with the same ferocity and determination that had kept them alive on their own world for centuries. There was no hesitation, no second-guessing. They were here for a single purpose, to save the Zorathians. As the battle raged on, Empress Rilia's heart swelled with gratitude. The humans, despite their differences and their own battles, had come to their aid. She had never imagined that such an alliance would be possible, but now, standing in the midst of the fight, she realized that this was their chance. A chance for survival, a chance for freedom. As the Overlord ships began to retreat, the atmosphere on the battlefield shifted. Victory was within their grasp, but it was not over yet. The humans and the Zorathians, once strangers to each other, were now united in a common cause. The trust between them was fragile, but it was growing with every passing moment. On the bridge of the U.S. Defiant, Captain Hawk's voice rang out over the comms. "We're not done yet. Keep pushing forward, everyone. Zorath Prime is depending on us." Empress Rilia's voice echoed back, stronger now. "We fight together, Captain. We will not fall." With the final blow struck against the Overlord forces, the battlefield was quiet, save for the remnants of destroyed warships drifting through space. The human fleet had done it. They had turned the tide of battle, and the Zorathians had held their ground. As the two leaders, Hawk and Rilia, stood on their respective ships, looking at the stars above, they knew that this was just the beginning. The battle for Zorath Prime was over, but the war against the Overlords had only just begun. "I believe in humanity's strength now," Rilia said softly, her voice carrying over the comms. "And we believe in yours," Hawk replied. "Together, we'll defeat them." The alliance had been forged, and as the dust of battle settled, the humans and the Zorathians stood united, ready for the challenges ahead. For the first time in years, hope had been restored. The moment the humans and Zorathians celebrated their hard-won victory, a new threat emerged from the depths of space. The Galactic Overlords, infuriated by the sudden appearance of the humans, knew they couldn't let this unexpected alliance stand. Their pride had been wounded, their plans for universal domination delayed. Their fury was boundless, and they were ready to strike back with everything they had. The Overlords were unlike any force the galaxy had ever seen. They had long since abandoned the need for organic soldiers, instead opting for eye-controlled war machines and robotic soldiers, all driven by a cold, mechanical precision. Their armies were relentless, moving as one, and their ships were armed with some of the most advanced weapons technology in the galaxy. The first sign of their retaliation came when the darkness of space was pierced by the unmistakable glow of hundreds of incoming warships. These weren't just any ships. The Overlord Armada was massive, its flagship looming at the center, surrounded by fleets of smaller vessels bristling with weapons. As the Zorathian defenses scrambled to respond, it became clear that the odds were overwhelming. The Zorathian strongholds, what was left of their cities and military bases, were being bombarded from above, their shields buckling under the sheer weight of the Overlord assault. The battle quickly turned against the Zorathians. With every strike from the Overlord forces, the Zorathian military faltered, their morale sinking with each destroyed ship and shattered city. Empress Rilia stood in her command center, her face grim as she watched the destruction unfold on the screens before her. The Overlords had launched a brutal attack, and it seemed as though the Zorathians were doomed to fall. But just as despair began to set in, the impossible happened. The human fleet, having been lying in wait, suddenly engaged the Overlords with a strategy they had perfected during their own wars on Earth. Using advanced stealth technology, the humans launched a cloaked assault, slipping past the Overlord scanners undetected. Their ships, invisible to enemy sensors, began to pick off the Overlord warships one by one, disabling their weapons and engines before the Overlords even knew what was happening. Empress Rilia's eyes widened as she watched the humans counterattack. Their ships, sleek and swift, moved with an uncanny precision, launching plasma torpedoes and energy bursts that tore through the Overlord warship's shields. The enemy didn't know what had hit them. It was a masterstroke, quiet, deadly, and incredibly effective. The Overlord ships, unprepared for the humans' stealth tactics, found themselves quickly outmatched by the onslaught. But this was just the beginning. The humans weren't done yet. Captain James Hawk, the leader of the human forces, had a plan of his own. He knew that to truly take the fight to the Overlords, they would have to strike at the heart of their operation, and that meant boarding one of their flagship warships. On the U.S. Defiant, Captain Hawk stood before his crew, his expression intense. "We've done well so far, but it's time to end this. We need to take down their command structure. We're going in. Prepare for boarding." The crew responded without hesitation, each member moving with purpose as they activated the boarding pods. Captain Hawk, a seasoned veteran of countless battles, was known for his leadership and his ruthless efficiency in close-quarters combat. He had fought on the front lines of Earth's wars, and he was no stranger to danger. This was his moment to lead his soldiers into the heart of the Overlord fleet. The boarding pods launched from the U.S. Defiant, cutting through the void of space toward the massive Overlord flagship. Hawk's heart raced as the pod shook with turbulence, but he kept his focus, knowing that the mission ahead would be dangerous, even deadly. But failure was not an option. As the pod approached the flagship, the massive ship loomed ahead, its dark hull gleaming ominously in the starlight. The Zorathians, watching from their own ships, could hardly believe what they were seeing. A group of human soldiers, led by their fearless captain, was about to board the flagship of the Overlords. Inside the boarding pod, Hawk turned to his squad. "Stay sharp," he said. "We're going in fast. Let's make this count." The moment the pod doors opened, the humans stormed the Overlord ship. The sound of energy blasts filled the air as they clashed with the robotic soldiers guarding the ship's corridors. Sparks flew as the robots fell under the weight of the humans' ferocity. The robots were fast, strong, and relentless, but they were also predictable. They moved in unison, controlled by the Overlord's central AI, but that very predictability made them vulnerable. Captain Hawk led the charge, his plasma blade glowing brightly as he swung it at the nearest robot, cutting through its metal exterior with ease. His soldiers followed suit, using a combination of explosive charges and close-quarters combat to take down the robots one by one. The Zorathians, watching the battle unfold on their screens, were in awe of the humans' ferocity. They had never seen combat like this before. The human soldiers moved with speed and precision, their bodies a blur as they tore through the Overlord defenses. With every step, they pushed deeper into the flagship, their guns firing rapidly and their blades slicing through metal. The Overlord robots, though formidable, were no match for the sheer determination and skill of the human soldiers. But as they moved deeper into the flagship, the intensity of the battle increased. The corridors were narrow, and the explosions reverberated through the metal walls. Sparks flew from every direction as the plasma cannons on the human soldiers' suits fired at the enemy robots. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and the hum of weapons fire. The humans fought with a fury that the Zorathians had never seen before, moving with a skill that only came from years of relentless training. Hawk, ever the strategist, knew that they couldn't just rely on brute force. They had to take out the Overlord AI if they were going to have any hope of winning this war. As they approached the core of the flagship, Hawk signaled for the squad to hold position. He moved forward, his plasma blade raised high, ready to face the final challenge. In the heart of the Overlord ship, the AI control room awaited. It was the brain of the entire fleet, the central hub that coordinated the Overlord forces. The moment they breached the door, they were met by a wall of defense. More robots, more energy blasts, and more death. But Captain Hawk wasn't intimidated. He charged forward, cutting down the robots with ruthless efficiency. The Zorathians, watching from their ships, were speechless. They had heard of humanity's legendary battles and their willingness to fight to the death. But seeing it firsthand was something entirely different. These humans were not just fighting to survive. They were fighting for something greater. the freedom of the Zorathians, the defeat of the overlords, and the chance to bring peace to the galaxy. As the final robot fell, Captain Hawk and his squad reached the AI core. With a series of explosive charges, they disabled the control system, cutting off the overlord's ability to command their forces. The flagship began to implode, its systems crashing as the human soldiers made their escape. The battle was over. The overlords had lost their command ship, and the tide of war had shifted in favor of the humans and the Zorathians. As Hawk and his squad boarded the escape pod, the Zorathians could only watch in awe. The humans had struck a blow against the overlords unlike any other, and in doing so, they had proven that they were not just allies. They were the key to defeating the overlord menace once and for all. As the U.S. Defiant and the Zorathian fleet regrouped, the overlords were left to lick their wounds, their once proud fleets now shattered and leaderless. The humans had shown them that even the most powerful of enemies could be defeated with courage, ingenuity, and unwavering resolve. For the first time in years, the galaxy was filled with hope. The humans had proven that they could be trusted. And now, together with the Zorathians, they would finish what had been started. The overlords would fall, and peace would reign across the stars. After the brutal clash between the humans and the overlords, things seemed to be going in humanity's favor. But the overlords were not ready to accept defeat just yet. From their dark strongholds deep within the galaxy, they had been preparing a weapon so devastating, so powerful, that it could obliterate entire planets with a single strike. The humans and Zorathians had only just begun to realize the true scale of the overlord's power. The overlord leaders, knowing that they couldn't win a conventional battle against the humans and Zorathians, had been keeping their ultimate weapon hidden for just such an occasion. Now, seeing their forces dwindling, they had no choice but to deploy it. The weapon was a planet-killer AI, an artificial intelligence system so advanced that it could target any planet in the galaxy and destroy it within minutes. It was connected to an enormous energy cannon, capable of generating enough power to annihilate not only the Zorathian homeworld, but entire star systems. As the countdown to launch began, the overlord's final hope of victory became clear. A single strike, and everything they had lost would be avenged. The energy pulses built up, ready to unleash destruction like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The humans and Zorathians, though, weren't ready to give up. They knew they had little time. The Zorathian leadership looked to their new allies for guidance. The humans had proven themselves in battle time and again, but could they stop something as destructive as this AI before it was too late? The Zorathian Empress Rilia, now fully reliant on the humans for their survival, turned to Captain Hawk with a desperate plea. "Captain Hawk," she said, her voice urgent, "you must stop this weapon. If it launches, not only will we lose our home, but the galaxy itself will fall into darkness. Can you do it? Can you save us?" The tension in the room was palpable. The humans had already accomplished so much, but this was a challenge unlike anything they had faced before. The countdown clock on the screen flickered ominously, its numbers dwindling second by second. The overlords were counting on this weapon to end the war, but the humans weren't going to let that happen. They couldn't, not after everything they had fought for. Captain Hawk, ever calm and composed, didn't hesitate. "We will stop it, Empress, but we'll need a team. Time is running out, and we don't have much room for error." His voice was steady, even though his heart raced with the knowledge of how dire the situation was. He quickly assembled a small elite team, handpicked from his finest soldiers, all of whom were ready to face the overlords once again. Hawk's team, a group of seasoned warriors, was led by their captain but included the most skilled fighters and tech specialists available. Among them was Lieutenant Bonner, a fearless soldier with a history of taking on impossible missions. The team knew the stakes. They had to infiltrate the overlord's base, reach the core of their operations, and disable the planet-killer AI before it was too late. The plan was simple yet dangerous. The team would board a stealth shuttle and slip past the Overlord defenses to land on their heavily fortified base. From there, they would fight their way to the heart of the facility, where the AI was being charged for launch. The Overlords had done everything they could to protect the weapon, but Hawk's team was determined to succeed, no matter the cost. The moment the shuttle launched from the U.S. Defiant, the team felt the weight of what they were about to face. They had no guarantees, no promises of success. The Overlord's base was well guarded, and their forces were ruthless. As the shuttle sped through space, the team prepared themselves for the brutal fight ahead. Their minds were sharp, their hearts determined. Upon reaching the Overlord base, the stealth shuttle landed in a shadowy corner of the facility. The team disembarked, taking careful steps to avoid detection. The base was dark, its walls covered in sleek metallic panels that seemed to hum with the power of the AI. Hawk led the team through narrow hallways, their footsteps echoing off the walls. They knew that each turn, each corner, could lead to danger. Suddenly, alarms blared, and red lights flashed across the walls. The Overlords had detected them. Security drones, small, agile machines, came pouring from the ceiling, their laser guns aimed directly at the humans. The team fought back without hesitation. Plasma blasts illuminated the dark hallways as Hawk's squad fired rapidly at the drones, tearing through their metallic bodies. But there were too many. More drones continued to pour out from every corner, their weapons relentless. The squad moved swiftly, using their training and tactical advantage to push forward, always staying one step ahead of the incoming forces. It wasn't long before they encountered the AI-enhanced alien soldiers, Overlord warriors modified with cybernetic implants and advanced weaponry. These soldiers were stronger, faster, and more dangerous than anything the humans had faced before. But Hawk and his team were undeterred. They fought with precision, their weapons cutting through the alien armor with ease. Still, every step forward came at a cost. As the squad made their way deeper into the heart of the base, the situation grew more intense. The AI-controlled traps the Overlords had set up began to activate. Laser grids, force fields, and automated turrets that fired at will. Hawk's team had to navigate these deadly obstacles while maintaining the offensive against the endless waves of enemies. Just when they thought they were nearing the AI core, something unexpected happened. Lieutenant Bonner, a towering figure in battle, was the first to notice the Overlord reinforcements arriving. They were too many. The team was running out of time. "Captain, we won't make it unless someone holds them off," Bonner said, his voice grim. Hawk understood immediately. Bonner had always been a team player, but now, in this moment of desperation, he made the ultimate sacrifice. "Bonner, no," Hawk protested, but the soldier was already setting up a defensive position, preparing for the worst. "I'll give you the time you need," Bonner said, his eyes locked on Hawk's with an intensity that spoke volumes. "Go, save the galaxy." With a heavy heart, Hawk gave the order for the team to proceed while Bonner took his position. The rest of the squad moved quickly toward the AI core, but the sounds of explosions and gunfire echoing behind them were a grim reminder of the price they were paying for this mission. The squad arrived at the central control room, the air thick with tension. The AI core glowed ominously in the center of the room, its energy building rapidly as the countdown continued. Hawk's mind raced as he saw the glowing panel, just inches away from launch. With a look of determination, he signaled to his team to begin the disarming process. But it wasn't going to be easy. As they began to work on disabling the AI, they were met with fierce resistance. More drones, more soldiers, and more traps, all trying to stop them. The countdown continued, ticking down relentlessly. Time was slipping away. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Hawk's team managed to breach the core system. With a final, desperate move, they shut down the AI, preventing the weapon from launching. But the victory came at a cost. Bonner's sacrifice had not been in vain. The Overlords had been stopped, but at the cost of one of their own. The galaxy was saved, but not without a heavy price. The humans had proven once again that they were willing to do whatever it took to protect the innocent and defeat the forces of tyranny. As they regrouped and returned to their ships, the Zorathians knew they owed humanity more than they could ever repay. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Together, the humans and Zorathians would face the next challenge, stronger, united, and determined to secure a future for all. The war was reaching its boiling point. The humans and the Zorathians, bound together by the fires of battle, knew that this would be the final confrontation. The overlords had used their ultimate weapon, the planet killer Eye, in a desperate bid to wipe them out. But now, with the weapon disabled and their forces shattered, the last battle for survival was about to unfold. Captain Hawk, standing at the forefront of the human forces, knew that this would be the defining moment of their struggle. He had led his team through countless skirmishes. But this was the moment that would decide the fate of the galaxy. There was no turning back. The overlords had pushed them to the edge, but the humans and the Zorathians had come together like never before. The final assault began with a roar as the massive warships of the human and Zorathian fleets emerged from the darkness of space. Orbital bombardments rained down from the sky, the bright flashes of plasma missiles lighting up the void as they struck the overlord strongholds. The Zorathian battle cruisers unleashed their deadly weapons, sending waves of energy discharges tearing through the enemy lines. The overlords, now cornered and desperate, fought back with all their might, their massive war machines and AI-controlled soldiers swarming the battlefield in a final attempt to hold their ground. The human ships, equipped with advanced stealth technology and devastating firepower, engaged in intense dogfights with the overlord drones, while Zorathian fighters zipped through the chaos, firing their weapons at any overlord vessel that came within range. The two armies were locked in a brutal clash, a dazzling display of futuristic warfare that would go down in history as one of the greatest battles ever fought. Captain Hawk's team, fresh from the success of disabling the AI, pushed forward with determination. They knew they had no time to waste. The overlord's last line of defense, the AI control room, was deep inside their main base, and they had to reach it before the battle ended in disaster. Their path was filled with enemies at every turn, cyber-enhanced overlord soldiers, automated defense systems, and traps that seemed to come out of nowhere. But Hawk's squad was ready for anything. They had already seen the horrors of war, and they had no intention of letting the overlords succeed in their final attempt at domination. As the team moved forward, the haunting memory of Lieutenant Bonner's sacrifice weighed heavily on their hearts. The brave soldier had given his life to ensure the success of their mission, and his death had not been in vain. He had bought them the time they needed, and now it was up to them to finish what they had started. The Zorathian warriors, having fought side by side with the humans for so long, felt the loss deeply. They had come to respect Bonner, and his sacrifice would not be forgotten. Every step Hawk took, every enemy he downed, was for Bonner. The squad made their way deeper into the Overlord base, the walls echoing with the sounds of the explosions and gunfire from the battle raging outside. Their path was lit by the dim glow of emergency lights, casting long shadows as they fought their way through the gauntlet of enemies. AI-controlled drones flew at them from above, their weapons flashing as they fired relentlessly. The squad fought back with precision, moving as one, a well-oiled machine. Plasma blasts sliced through the air, and laser swords clashed with the robotic enemies in brutal close-quarters combat. The sound of metal crashing against metal filled the air as the humans and Zorathians fought for their survival. Every minute felt like an eternity as the squad pushed forward, the stakes higher than ever. The countdown to destruction continued, ticking away relentlessly. 10 minutes to launch, 9 minutes, and the pressure mounted. They had to reach the AI core before it was too late. The Overlord defenses seemed endless. The team encountered everything from laser grids to holographic decoys designed to confuse them. But Hawk's squad was relentless, never slowing, never faltering. They fought through the traps, their minds focused on the task at hand, to destroy the overlords once and for all. They couldn't afford to fail. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they reached the AI control room. It was a massive, imposing structure, its walls lined with energy conduits and data terminals that hummed with the power of the weapon. The AI core itself was located at the center of the room, glowing with a cold blue light. The countdown continued, now only minutes away from reaching zero. But the team wasn't about to let that happen. As they entered the room, they found themselves face to face with the Overlord leader, a towering, imposing figure whose eyes glowed with malice. The Overlord leader's voice rang out, cold and taunting. "You think you can stop me? You think you can stop the inevitable? You are nothing but insects before the might of the Overlords." But Hawk was undeterred. With a steely gaze, he responded, "We are human, and we fight for survival. You're about to learn just how far we're willing to go." With a battle cry, the final confrontation began. Hawk and his squad immediately engaged the Overlord leader and his elite guards. Energy swords clashed against alien armor, and blaster fire lit up the room. The Zorathian warriors moved like lightning, their blades flashing as they fought to protect the humans and dismantle the Overlord's forces. The room was a whirlwind of chaos, every move crucial, every second critical. Meanwhile, Captain Hawk moved towards the AI core, hacking into the system with all the knowledge and skill he had gained over the years. He had done this countless times before, but never with the stakes so high. Seconds remained on the countdown clock as he worked, his fingers flying across the control panel. The Overlord leader saw what Hawk was doing and charged at him, rage fueling his every step. With a final, desperate move, Hawk slammed his fist onto the emergency shutdown button. The AI core sparked, its power systems shutting down, and the countdown halted. The weapon was disarmed. The Overlord leader, furious and defeated, took one final swing at Hawk, but the captain was ready. With a swift movement, he blocked the attack and countered with a powerful blow. The Overlord leader fell, his massive body crashing to the ground with a thunderous thud. Outside, the Overlord forces began to retreat in disarray as their greatest weapon was destroyed. The energy discharges that had once lit up the sky now faded into nothing, and the war was over. The humans and Zorathians had won, but the cost had been high. As the team stood victorious in the ruins of the Overlord base, they took a moment to honor the fallen. Bonner, the brave soldier who had given everything for this mission, would never be forgotten. His sacrifice had ensured that the galaxy would survive, and his memory would live on in the hearts of those who fought alongside him. The final assault had been won, but the galaxy would never forget the bravery, the sacrifice, and the relentless determination of those who stood together to defeat the Overlords. The humans and Zorathians, bound by the fires of war, had forged an unbreakable bond. Together, they had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, ensuring a future of hope and peace for all. The war was finally over. The Overlords, the once unstoppable force that had threatened to erase the Zorathian race, were no more. Their planet-killer weapon was destroyed, their leader defeated, and their massive fleets scattered across the galaxy. The humans, those who had been mocked and underestimated by the other galactic species, had proven themselves as fierce warriors, capable of standing up to the might of the Overlords. And in doing so, they had saved not just the Zorathians, but the entire galaxy. As the battle raged across the stars, Captain Hawk and Empress Rilia had fought side by side, each one relying on the other for strength. Their bond, forged in the heat of battle, had become unbreakable. But now, standing in the aftermath of victory, the toll of the war was clear. Hawk gazed out at the wreckage of the Overlord stronghold, the once mighty fortress now reduced to rubble. The stars above seemed quiet, as though even the universe itself was taking a moment to breathe. "We did it," Rilia said softly, her voice filled with a mixture of relief and sorrow. The weight of so many lives lost, of sacrifices made, was heavy in her words. Hawk could feel the same burden pressing on him. His heart ached for every soldier who had fallen, especially Bonner, the Zorethian warrior who had sacrificed himself to give them the time they needed to disable the Overlord Eye. Hawk nodded, his eyes distant. "We did, but it came at a cost," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. He remembered the last moments with Bonner, how the soldier had charged into battle, holding off the Overlord forces to buy his team the precious seconds they needed to save the galaxy. Bonner had given his life, knowing it was the only way to ensure victory. His sacrifice was one that would never be forgotten. Rilia placed a hand on Hawk's shoulder, her grip firm and reassuring. "We all knew the price of this fight, but we also knew it was worth it," she said. The strength in her voice was comforting, a reminder that they had all come together for a cause greater than themselves. Together, they turned and walked towards the central courtyard of the Zorethian capital. The city, once scared by the war, was beginning to rebuild. The damage caused by the Overlord's relentless attacks was still evident in the crumbling buildings and shattered streets, but there was hope in the air. Workers, both human and Zorethian, moved through the city, clearing debris and beginning the process of rebuilding. It was a symbol of the unity that had been forged between their people, a bond stronger than any weapon the Overlords could have wielded. As Hawk and Rilia walked through the city, they observed the new alliance in action. Zorethian engineers worked alongside human scientists, sharing knowledge and resources to rebuild what had been lost. The sound of hammers striking metal, the hum of machinery, and the murmur of voices filled the air, a symphony of cooperation. The once divided races now stood together, building a future that would be far stronger than anything either of them had ever imagined before the war. The new alliance between humanity and the Zorethians was more than just a military partnership. It was a symbol of hope for the entire galaxy. The humans, once thought of as insignificant and weak, had proven themselves to be warriors of unmatched courage and resilience. Their victory over the Overlords was a testament to their strength and their determination to protect those they cared about, no matter the cost. As they walked, Hawk glanced up at the sky. Above them, human ships orbited the planet, standing guard. They were a visible sign of the humans' commitment to the Zorethians and the galaxy at large. The Zorethians, who had once viewed the humans as an unimportant species, now saw them as allies, strong, reliable, and unyielding in the face of adversity. The silence between them was comfortable. Both Hawk and Rilia understood that the war was over, but the work was just beginning. Rebuilding was a massive task, one that would take years. The Zorethians had lost much in the conflict, but with the help of their new allies, they were starting to heal. The wounds of war wouldn't disappear overnight, but the future now seemed a little brighter. Hawk stopped for a moment, his eyes scanning the horizon. He could see the Zorethian cities beginning to rebuild, with towering spires rising from the rubble. The once barren landscape was being transformed, as the people of both worlds worked hand in hand to restore what had been lost. It was a powerful sight, the manifestation of the new alliance, a testament to the resilience of both races. Looking out at the horizon, Hawk felt a sense of peace settle over him. The battle was over, but the journey was far from finished. There were still challenges ahead, still dangers to face, but they were no longer alone. Humanity and the Zorethians had forged a bond that would carry them forward into a future where anything was possible. As Hawk turned to leave the courtyard, he spotted a group of Zorethian children playing in the distance. Their laughter filled the air, a sound that had been all but lost during the war. The children were no longer living in fear, no longer hiding from the horrors of battle. They were free to dream, to grow, and to shape the future as they saw fit. Rilia caught the look on Hawk's face and smiled. "It's a new beginning for all of us," she said. He nodded in agreement. "And it's just the start." The camera panned up to the sky, where the human ships hovered, their sleek designs a symbol of the newfound strength of humanity. In the distance, Earth loomed, a small but vital part of the galaxy's future. The camera lingered for a moment, taking in the peaceful sight of the Zorathian cities as they rebuilt, the sounds of cooperation filling the air. The darkness of war had passed, and now the light of peace was beginning to shine. With the overlords defeated and the galaxy beginning to heal, humanity had found its place among the stars. The humans, once dismissed as insignificant, were now seen as the galaxy's strongest allies. And together, with the Zorathians, they would face whatever the future held, knowing that their bond could withstand anything. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the humans and the Zorathians would face it together. As the camera zoomed out, Earth shining brightly in the distance, the message was clear. This was just the beginning of a new chapter in the galaxy's history, one that would be written in the stars. And with that, the story of humanity's rise from the ashes, from being the underdogs to becoming the galaxy's greatest allies, came to a close. But the legacy of their victory, the strength of their alliance, would live on, as bright and enduring as the stars themselves.